What's up? What's up? How's everyone doing? All right. This is the first live video of 2021. I've got a little bit of a plan, just kind of off the cuff, going to chat with you guys about what's new, what's going on. First things you can see, I haven't shaved since Christmas, so we're going to see how this does and see if it looks good on me or not. I don't know yet. You guys let me know what you think. All right. So passing the new beard here. What's up? What's going on, everybody? Hopefully y'all are having a good time. This year is slating off to be hopefully a good year. I was a little nervous at first, I'll be honest, when Kenda released all their information about the new tariffs we're going to have and a bunch of other stuff. That was freaking me out. No lie. I was even like, not even getting online for a little bit. But if you weren't familiar with what was going on there, basically there's a nearly 100% increase in the price of the tires. So I was, worried that I might not be sponsored, that we might not have tires, that there weren't going to be any Kendas available, all that sort of stuff. And we're still sorting those details out. But it sounds like Kenda is so happy with me. They want to keep me on board in some capacity. So more details on that soon. But what I really want to chat about today is some of the changes around the country. We've got a bunch of different awesome grassroots drift organizations. And a friend of mine, Reese Marin, is one of the judges up at USDrift, which is in the northeast side of USA here. And I thought it'd be cool to kind of have him on the show. He's an OG drifter. He's a friend of mine. He's got a very similar mentality as I do, where I feel like talent should outweigh money, basically. Oftentimes in motorsports, that's not the case, which is unfortunate, especially for guys like me that don't have a lot of money. But, it's still the ever present battle of David versus Goliath. Who's got the money, who's got the skill, and can you pull off a little combination of both? We'll also chat about the prospect stuff with Formula D. I know that you guys are going crazy, all the hardcore drift fans, about that. So we'll chat about that a little bit, kind of my personal thoughts on this issue, some of Reese's personal thoughts on the issue. And then from there, we will just kind of answer some questions that we see. So there you go. There's your breakdown on what this is all about. So hello, everybody in the comments. I see you guys down there. What's up, Rosario? Haven't chat with you in a bit. All right, so I'm going to get Reese on here now. If I can find his request to go live. Reese, if you're watching, go out and then come back in. And that way your little poppy thing up at the bottom. There you are. Boom. Free request. Go live with Reese. Yes. Cool. Oh, someone told me I should build a V8. That is not going to happen. Thanks for playing. What's up, Reese?
Hey, what's going on, man?
How you doing?
Doing good.
Awesome. It's great to see you, man. At least in this virtual world that we're in.
Well, until the events start up again, I know we always keep on running into each other when we go to FD or any others drift events.
Right. Absolutely. So I kind of introduce you to everyone here, let you know that you're an OG drifter. We have similar kind of mentalities when it comes to drifting, but why don't you tell everyone watching who you are, what you do, what's fun, and how you're affiliated with USDrift.
So my name is Reese Marin, and I've been drifting for about 15 years now. I am a part of Club Loose. That's generally where I got all my all the training that I do for being an instructor and stuff like that. So I am now an instructor. I did compete way back in 2013 in USDrift, and as like you said, drifting is a very expensive sport. So when the decision came, do I want to spend that money going to FT, I was like, nah, I'm not trying to be broke, man. Like,
right.
I saw the writing on the wall, and I had a lot of good friends such as Chelsea and a lot of other drivers that pretty much laid it out to me, and I was just like, nah, I'm not willing to gamble that money. Like, I don't got that. And no shame in that. I mean, I'd rather do everything that I'm doing now. So and obviously I go to FD a lot, spot for a couple drivers for Matt Kaufman in Pro 1, and what's going to be Pro Spec, Brian Wadman, who's in there, and just kind of traveling around. I mean, I travel all around the United States instructing, doing clinics. I get to do a lot of cool things behind the scenes in drifting. It's a blast to think that I went from driving to judging, instructing, and just doing so many things, and now involved with USDrift. So if you go to the Pro-Ams, which I judged a lot of Pro-Ams last year. I may have been one of the judges if it was in the Northeast or the East Coast or even in North Dakota. And I kind of have a very strict mentality that I learned over at Club Loose, and I kind of bring that to the table when I go to these to these competitions. And usually I think that like the organizations usually tell me that we feel like you're going to be hard on the drivers, which is what we want. And I am. I mean, people were hard on me when I was doing it. I mean, the judges that I had were really strict, and you know, like I think I'm being soft compared to how they were on me.
Yeah, I can definitely relate. And I had some of that tough love growing up from the drift community, specifically Club Loose, actually. And you know what? I deserved it. So,
I mean, we're rough around the edges, but it is for a reason. You know what I mean? And it's also an East Coast attitude, and I hope people understand it's nothing personal. It's how we are, and we're not going to change. You know?
Yeah, and I like that too. And I think a lot of people do appreciate it. Like you're no bullshit, and you'll tell it like it is. And sometimes people, like, you say some things that maybe someone wants to say, but they don't want to rub the wrong, you know, person or whatever. And you're just like, no, that's how it is. So,
I mean, so I think a lot of it's all right. So it's like I've been around to see drifting grow through Facebook and kind of grow through social media. Mike Press says something to me that stuck with me a lot, which was drifting is an internet sport, and I definitely believe that. And the way it kind of manifests. So I know if I press the certain buttons, say a couple things, you'll get the reaction out of the general public that you want, and they kind of push something, you know what I mean? So I'm very well aware, being in the sport for 15 years, that to me, every 4 years, I see a new generation of drivers that commit either the same error or go through the same thing. So I now understand why the guys above me in Club Loose were so hard on me, because they saw all of these things happen before.
Right.
And now I'm in an opportunity to be able to attempt to correct and kind of bring down the big headedness of the very all the drivers, you know what I mean?
For sure. And, you know, I think that's something that I kind of preach in the same kind of angle, is like, you guys everyone who I'm giving advice to, whether they take it or not, you should learn from my mistakes, right? Because I've done so many things the wrong way that I would not tell you to do it the wrong way. Like, that's just a waste of time, right? I like you, want this sport to grow, want everyone to be better. I want to be able to go out on a track day and thrash with any driver, not just a select few. And if I can help people, you know, figure it out and get it done easier and get on track, then hell yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think sometimes people misunderstand that when we playfully criticize or we start getting on your case, it's not because we want you guys to continuously commit the same errors. I mean, right now I'm going to say you're committing an error, but like in person, I'm going to be like, you're sucking. Because if I tell you like, oh, you're kind of messing up, dude, just try this, that ain't going to get no result. But if I come up to you, I'm like, yo, what are you doing? You're fucking blowing it, dude. You know what I mean? That kind of resonates with you more. And I'm hard on people when it comes to that. And I think like the club that I'm part of is hard on people, because if you can't deal with us, you ain't going to go out there and start competing and doing all that other stuff. I mean, there's some people that just want to do the grassroots stuff, and that's a beautiful thing.
Right.
And there's other people that have other plans, but you kind of have to see the lessons that are being taught in front of you. And I think there's a lot of people and a lot of clubs that are definitely pushing that.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. So let's chat about USDrift. What's new for this year? I saw you had a big rule change, a big announcement. Let's let everyone know what the hell's going on.
I didn't think it was going to be such a big deal. Like,
yeah, I know, right? You're like, it's literally 3 new rules, but okay.
I think what it was is, I think the reason it's such a big deal, or people are kind of waiting on it, is because the drifting community, America's really big, right? And like, there's a lot of different styles of drifting that go on in America. There's East Coast, West Coast, South, Pacific Northwest, Texas. Like, if you've been around this long enough, you can tell like where someone's from just by the way they're driving a little bit. Not everyone, but you can kind of, like, it's there. And like, we should be very happy that exists.
For sure.
Like,
for sure.
That's cool. Like, that's ours. That's America. Like, that's, I don't say that it sucks here. It doesn't suck here.
Diversity is great.
It's great. You know what I mean? If we were all the same thing, this would be NASCAR, and that's lame. You know,
I don't want to eat at the same restaurant every night, for sure.
Yeah, you know what I mean? So just kind of having this opportunity where people want the street legal stuff, they want to do something that's a little bit more inclusive, that's a little bit more obtainable financially, you can pull this off. I think that's what people were kind of looking for. But sometimes if you're in a position where you can speak up, then I think a lot of us drivers or people that have some pull need to speak up and make it happen. And I mean, I give all the credit to USDrift. Those guys have helped me years ago, and now they're trying to do this stuff. Brian Egger, all the whole staff, they just really try to like think what's new, like what can we do now?
Right.
And I think this whole idea of doing the street league or doing the street legal series is going to be more inclusive, and it emphasizes on driver skill. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it's cool. Don't get me wrong. Seeing 900 horsepower cars drifting,
obliterate tires in 2 laps.
It's fucking it's insane, dude. It's insane. It's absolutely insane. It's really cool, and we all like seeing it. But that's a minority of people that can do that. It's a very small group, and you can't see that. We see it only 8 times, and for a couple laps every year.
Yep.
You know, but the street legal stuff and the stuff that's a little bit more attainable, that's more inclusive, that's more, dare I say, stock with more stuff, a little modifications allows way more drivers to be able to do this. And I think you're going to be able to sustainably do this over and over and over again. And instead of spending all that money lap after lap in these insane 700 horsepower cars. Yeah. So I think now that people see that there's an opportunity to do that, they're all about it. You know what I mean? And you're going to have people that criticize or, you know, this, that, and the other. Amazingly, I think people accepted this, and I think it's going to work out. I'm assuming that the rules that were put in place were a reflection of the demographic near us, because I know that there's other street league series around the country, and I'm assuming that they adhere those rules and cater them to that demographic. So that's what we're trying to do over here, and hopefully expand it a little bit more. I think the response has been good, and I want to see, you know, where it goes.
So let's break it down for those that don't know. We got a new 2021 USDrift Street Legal Series, and these cars are more or less going to be roadworthy, nearing stock. They're limited to a 235 tire, right? I like that you kept the rules vague, and if you guys want to read the rules, you can just go to USDrift's website, and pretty easy to find the rule book. You can even just Google USDrift rules. But basically, the cars are the rules are vague enough to where if someone's being a dickhead, then you can tell them to cut it out, right?
Yeah, like if we see somebody doing something, like, it's like, come on, dude. Like, that's the whole thing. It's like, have self-accountability. Like,
but it also, what I like is that it also gives you a little bit of lenience where, like, if you know there's this guy who doesn't want to change a part on his car that was already there, and he's not necessarily like a ringer, and he's not going to come in and podium every time, then you can kind of give him some leeway and like understand that he's still, you know, on a budget and learning to drive. There's only a couple of hard rules, which is like the 235 tires and I don't know, a couple of things like the motor swap stuff, right?
Yeah, we want to keep the motor swaps for the most part in its own, you know, brand, you know, Nissan with Nissan, Toyota with Toyota,
right?
Things like that. We didn't really do much when it came to the turbos. I know last year the rules stated something about turbos and limitations. We couldn't have aftermarket, and we couldn't have bigger injectors. I thought that rule was silly. I can't name 6 reliable SR20s that are doing well over 400 horsepower that are rippers. Like, I see dyno sheets, but I don't see 6 people show up with like 400 plus horsepower SR20s, and they're just living on and on and on.
Right, I was gonna say they don't make it to the end of the weekend.
I mean, we like to think that there may be one dude that can do that, but we need more than one dude. We need like 25 people to do like a competition. You know what I mean? Like, let's be realistic. So the good thing is that the 235s partnered with the technicality and how technical the layouts are going to be really limits where you should be coming into this with horsepower.
Right.
An example of that is Front Street Josh and his S13. They were all up in arms because they had aftermarket turbos and bigger injectors, and they had more horsepower. I don't know why they cared about the horsepower. The power band, and when it came in, was a disadvantage to Josh.
Right.
And you could see that when he was driving, the turbo lag was coming in parts when you didn't want it to come in, and it left the window open for I think it was driver Michael Wallace to come in with the BMW and get the advantage on him. He capitalized on that. But people don't see that other side of drifting. They don't understand that there's more than just all of the horsepower. It's like, all right, but when is it coming in? What's the delivery of that power coming in? What's the power band? What's all of that stuff? Like, that's real drifting, not and a bunch of
internet drifting, right?
You got to think, you know what I mean? Like, oh, I'm going to this track and it's this layout. What am I going to do to my car? Maybe I should take basic things, a little less tire pressure here, or a different alignment. I don't know. You know what I mean? Like, things where you're making the adjustment, not I need more horsepower. And I think that's the mindset that went into this. And we left the turbo and aftermarket turbos and everything open because I don't think it's going to be an issue. If it does become an issue, I'm sure they'll address it and we'll sit down and talk about it. But I think for the most part, from what we saw, and I'm very proud of the people that showed up, they were all real gentlemen about it. Nobody was trying to do something that they shouldn't to get an advantage. It was very straight up. It was very respectful. It was very street. And that's what we were going for. And it was like the unwritten rules, everybody was abiding to them. And everybody just wanted to have a fun, competitive weekend. And that's what they got.
Oh, yeah. That's awesome. I mean, I'm definitely interested in coming out there. If I can make the scheduling and the money work, I'd love to come out there and hang out. I told you on Facebook, I was like, tag some drivers that want to let me dual drive their cars. So if anyone watching is competing in USDrift and you want to let me dual drive your car and try not to crash it, let me know. So let's chat about maybe some of the differences in like the Texas street legal, rule book versus yours. I don't know how familiar you are with it, but I'll kind of go over it. It's pretty similar, you guys, just so you know. The fuel is limited in Lone Star Drift to 93 octane. I don't know if you guys have a fuel limitation there. Are you allowing ethanol or 85?
No, you're running pump.
Pump. Yeah. Okay, so that's the same. This says all cars must have 250 or higher rated treadwear tires. So similar to you guys, I think you're at 300, which is encompassing all those tires that everyone should be using, like the Kenda. I think there's some Federals, there's some Falcons, the Linos, certainly all make, something over that. And plenty of the cheaper tires too. So,
right.
And then we've got, all cars must have a fire extinguisher, properly mounted seat and harness, proper helmet. No fuel cells are allowed in our series for some reason. I don't know if that's to prevent people from modifying it. That's probably what that rule's for. Do you guys have a fuel cell rule?
Yeah, I mean, we would just want you to show up with what comes in the car. You know what I mean? Like,
just a stock tank.
Yeah, like the whole point of this whole thing is like, if you're a dude out there that just has like an SR20 in your car and you have a helmet, like you could essentially come drive to the event, maybe win, or come home with something and then drive home.
Right.
That, you know what I mean? So we don't want you to overcomplicate your life by let's get this, let's get that. It's like, nah, like I drove this to the corner store and got a breakfast sandwich this morning. I went to the track and I ripped all day.
Yeah.
I came back home and now I'm getting something to eat again at the same corner store. That's the type of effect we're trying to go for.
And maybe on the same pair of tires.
and hopefully on the same pair of tires. And,
right. So,
and if you have good competition where it's friendly and respectful, like how is that not a good day? Not to mention you're becoming a better driver because you're pretty much sparring with people that are really good.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like there's really good drivers out there. We just don't know about them because
they don't have the money.
We're scattered all over the country.
Yeah. Well, I think that's great. I think that's perfectly driving home the same point as like Aaron and Lone Star makes, is that we're trying to save you from yourself, right? We're trying to save the drivers from getting online, looking at what some pro driver that they idolize is running, and then buying $5,000 worth of that, and then having now their budget for the season's gone because they're modding their car. Instead, just take what you got, put some tires on it, go out there and drive as best you can, invest in, seat time and track time, maybe a lesson, stuff like that, and bring the fun back into drifting, right? And drifting competition.
Absolutely. I mean, I can't even tell you how many times there's been drivers or pro-am guys or experienced people that I've seen go to the School of Drift. I sometimes go to the Pacific Northwest where Chelsea has the School of Drift, and I instruct there. And like the type
I'm dying to get out there, by the way.
The what?
I'm dying to get out there. This is so fun.
that track is absolutely a blast. Like,
It looks like it is.
When that idea came about of being able to be a part of that and have a school actually happen like that, it was just real. Like, when you go there, you're gonna have you're not gonna want to stop. Like, Chelsea's gonna tell you to chill out. You know what I mean? Like, it's
I can totally see that happening.
It's an absolute blast, man. You know, and when you go there, you have all these people that once it clicks and they get it, they start looking at things different. Like, yo, like maybe I should get like a more basic car and really refine my technique.
Right.
Because when you're ready, like, you'll know when you're ready, and then you'll make that decision whether you financially want to make that decision and go down that path, or just figure out your niche and do something else.
For sure. So let's chat about that, because that's a great segue into something I think that people need to realize, is that not everyone who starts drifting needs to become a pro drifter. Doesn't need to be the goal. It can be the goal. You can aspire to that, absolutely. But a pro drifter doesn't necessarily mean someone competing in Pro 1 at Formula D, right? That can be someone who's getting paid to drive. I think a great example of that is Matt Powers, right? He's getting paid to drive Kias and stuff and doing whatever the hell he wants and surfing and like having a blast. And he did the pro drifter thing, but now he's still somehow maintaining without having to compete pro. Just one example, maybe not the best, but like, you know,
great example. That's
I mean, you and me are in drifting. We're not pro drifting, but we're, you know, so ingrained into this world that we've made it make a livelihood for us, right? Whether it be coaching or fabricating or instructing, or in your case, judging and organizing things, doing, you know, paid driving stuff that I'm sure you do in the back behind the scenes, you know, all kinds of stuff like that. So let's chat about that. And like, what do you think we need to show people that like it's possible to still have a great time and a career in drifting without trying to go broke going pro racing?
So it really depends. It depends, you know, your upbringing. It depends a lot of things. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I made a decision at a very young age that this is what I was going to do. And somehow, some way, maybe that I'm really thick-headed or something, that it kind of kept me on that path. I mean,
yeah. How old were you when you decided? I'm curious.
When I got into it when I was 19 going to 20.
Cool.
2005. And I mean, I have to say the reason I stuck with it is, I mean, I was with Club Loose, and those dudes just don't. You go there and they plucked me off the streets because I was a street drifter, right? And
yeah.
Absolutely despised it. I didn't have the foresight to really see why.
Right.
They brought me there. I saw that they knew way more than me. Matt Petty showed me the deal, and I was like, all right, this dude knows more than me. Like, I'm an idiot if I think I'm not going to sit here and try to learn. So, and having that environment allowed me to stay in it. And where I understand that there's other people in other parts of the country, you may not have a group of friends, or you may not have that social group that allows you to just like fester and breed and stay in this, and it keeps you motivated. So it's going to be harder for some people, and it's going to be easier. And I live with my roommates that are both drifters. I have all of my friends in like Philadelphia. I mean, I can go anywhere in the country and like I could find a place to stay at a drifter's house. So my world is different, but I also put in 15 years.
For sure.
You know what I mean? And a lot of money got spent, and you have to be smart. You have to be humble. You have to know that you're going to go somewhere and you're going to lose. You know, I remember I traveled all the way down to Atlanta thinking I was like the shit, and I didn't even qualify, and I had to take a 14-hour drive back home. Like, we've all been through shitty experiences, but it's how you overcome those shitty experiences where we start to realize who's really about this.
Right.
You know, I can't tell you how many times I've benefited off of some dude who's come into drifting and then has decided to just rage quit. And I'm like, all right, well, I'll buy whatever you got, because that happens.
Yeah.
And it sucks to say, but it happens. It's a reality. You know what I mean? So in order to do this, you have to evaluate your living situations, where you are in the country. If you have to make a move, make a move. If you're really about this, then we'll see. You know what I mean? Yeah. The shelf life for drifters are like 3-4 years, in my opinion.
Definitely takes some perseverance, you know, and you got to be hard-headed. I'm definitely that too. So
yeah. And you have to have people around you. Like, I mean, I had Chelsea. Me and Chelsea have been friends since we were teenagers, and like, he was the most optimistic person in the world. Like, nah, we can do this.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? So I have to give a lot of credit to him because like there was a lot of times where he's like, "Yo, we should just go to Florida and go to this drifting line." Me being a Latin kid from Philadelphia, like that was not even something I even thought about doing. I'm like, "Yo, this kid's crazy. Like he wants to do what?" You know what I mean? So
He wants
it
to
was
drive how far?
yeah, and he was like, "Yeah, it's just a couple states away or whatever, and this and that." He was just so like, dude, it was insane. So me having that around me is what helped me. So I tell and value your friends and realize that those guys actually form you as a drifter more than you think. You know what I mean?
Right. Damn. That's true though. You got to have like a lot of dedication, a lot of perseverance. You got to change a lot of things about your lifestyle, as you mentioned. All those things are very pertinent to this. And I mean, it seems like drifting is such a volatile sport, right? You either have people that are completely full on every single dollar and minute they have thinking, dreaming, working for it, and then they just explode and then they just burn out completely and say, fuck drifting, I hate drifting, I never want to do it. You know what I mean? Like, it seems like it's a very volatile, either you're in it all in or you're completely over it, you know?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I've seen dudes that it's crazy. I've seen guys, or drivers that come into this, and they remind me of like those kids who would get like that new toy, and then if when the toy didn't do what they wanted, they would just break it or throw it and just like be a complete dick about it.
Right.
There's a lot of drifters that are like that. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
they just rage, get all pissed off, and it's like, bro, why would you be spending all of this money to do something that literally just pisses you? It's all
Right.
about the approach. You know
This
what I
is
mean? So,
supposed to be fun. Did you
yeah,
remember that part?
I mean, I get it. I've been pissed off and shit
Of
like that.
course.
But it's like after a while, you're like, this is silly. How am I? I don't know why I'm bitching because in a month from now, I'm going to spend a couple grand and do it all over again.
Right. Yeah, and you know that already. Like,
Yeah, you know you're going to do it.
you know it.
Sitting here convincing yourself that you're not going to spend the money on drifting is like, it's absurd. You know you're going to do it.
Yeah.
I mean, eventually there's going to be responsibilities that you as a human being should definitely take care of. But
Right, of course.
you're in a point in your life where you can kind of just do your thing. Don't bitch about it, bro. Like, this isn't hard. This isn't easy. It may be easy. It's way easier for some of you guys because you have us as instructors that are teaching you to do all this stuff.
Right.
But it's not supposed to be easy.
And YouTube. There was no YouTube
Yeah.
how-tos when I was starting to do this shit.
There was no Juco racing. There was none of that shit, dude. We didn't know we didn't know what we were doing. Like, oh, dude, we were idiots, and you guys have the new generation has everything. I'm not saying handed to them, but it's like, who cares? Who cares
It's
if you're
much more accessible, for sure.
Yeah, and if it's accessible, use the knowledge.
Yeah.
Because in 2 years, if we taught you in 2 years, you're not better than us, then we didn't do our job.
Yeah, actually, I agree. And in fact, I've had a couple students that got so good so quick that I was actually angry about it because I'm just like, it took me years to do what you just did in 2 days. Like, I hate you.
Yeah, and I kind of like, you leave thinking like, I hope that dude appreciates that I just gave you, 10 plus years of my life encompassed in a couple of hours.
It really is.
People are gonna go and you just pray that they're gonna remember, like, yo, like, thank God this dude took the time to teach me and stuff like that. But I've had my spotter TJ Borat, who's a fabricator over at One Motion here in Warminster, Pennsylvania. He was my spotter, and I watch him drive now, and that dude could kick my ass right now.
Really?
Like, I see him drive, and I'm just like, no way. Like, no, I'm not.
That's gonna feel good for you though, because like y'all are homies, and you know.
Yeah. I mean,
he him go from nothing.
He tells me like, yo, there's a lot of things that I watched you do, and I'm sure he saw me mess up a million times.
Right.
And he kind of just put his own twist on it. I love the way he drives. It's so aggressive. It's amazing. But there's plenty of drivers that I've seen that. The difference is that if I watch you drive long enough, because we have the experience, we'll eventually figure you out, and then we'll start tearing you apart. But in competition, you only get one shot to do it.
Right.
But if you go to a grassroots event, you may how in the grassroots events, like, there's no competition, but there's that playful, like, kind of going back and forth with people. They're just trying to test you out.
Right.
And they'll get one on you. And then as the day goes on, because you have the experience, you figure them out. And then they're just like, damn.
Yeah.
That was short lived.
It's like an old boxer or something, right? Like
Yeah,
getting beat up in the first few rounds, trying to figure out what the hell you're doing.
yeah. It's pretty much what Chelsea does to me all the time. I swear he lets me feel
He
like
reels you in. You
yeah.
like
He'll like drive with me like at park. I remember, and he was just like, I'm like, all right, cool. Like I'm getting one on this dude. And then the next lap he gets for real, and I'm just like, man, whatever, dude.
you're like you didn't have to do all that.
Yeah, like let's go get pizza, dude. Like
That's
whatever.
rude, Chelsea. You don't need to do
Yeah.
all that.
You know what I mean? But it's you learn a lot from all your friends. I mean, dude, I seen Travis Reeder up there ripping. There's just, dude, there's just so many people that are involved in it, and there's so many good drifters that aren't, like you said, aren't in professional drifting, aren't even competing. That are doing really good things. It's all about you don't have to be a driver.
Yep.
There's so many other things you can do. I never thought I was going to be an instructor. I never thought I was going to be a judge.
Me
I
neither.
thought I was too much of an asshole for anybody to consider that. But you know, I've toned it down a bit and realized where you can apply it, and you rock out. You know what I mean? And if you're legit and you're real in this community, then you'll get the love back and you won't get any hate. It's when you're a dick in this community and you openly know, and we all openly know that you're a dick in the community, we're going to say something because that's the world we live in. You know what I mean?
You're gonna get called out.
Yeah, you can't hide. You know, someone's going to say something, so you might as well just be real.
All right, let's shift gears here and chat about ProSpec and the internet ablaze about all these couple rules that don't even go into effect for 2 years.
I was just watching Piston Head Products. They just had a live stream with Kevin.
Okay.
And this is kind of cool because I know me and you love grassroots drifting and love all that, but we're actively going to Formula Drift and we're there.
Right.
Watching this all unfold.
I love it all. Like I said earlier, I want to eat at a different restaurant every day. Sometimes I like, Club Loose style. Sometimes Texas ratty cars. Sometimes it's pro level. Sometimes it's like, the pretty cars that are awful to drive. I don't care. I don't care. As long as it looks good and I see that like someone is putting in effort, I appreciate it.
Yeah, as long as it looks good and people are driving the right line, I can whatever. It looks
right. Yeah.
The weirder it looks, like the better. Pro Spec. I listened to what Kevin was saying. He explained a lot of things. It's on his Instagram post. If you guys go there, he explained a couple of things, like 6 questions. But
I saw that. Yeah,
I understand where he's going with that. And I think what people need to understand is that Formula G has made rule changes in the past. There has been adjustments. He made a really, really intelligent. He said something that really stood out to me, where he said, before everybody had V8s and now everybody has 2JZs, and who knows what's going to be like in another 4 years. So I think they're evolving, and they're that's what happens in professional motorsports, and I think it's inevitable, and I think it's something that needed to happen in order to bring down the cost. I know right now a lot of the drivers may not think it's a good thing, but the generation behind you is looking at it like, all right, cool, well, now I know.
Yeah. And you know what? I think that a lot of people, no one's really hit on that I've seen. I've been watching the internet too. And something that I think is so important, that people are now getting 2 or 3 years advance notice. That's what the takeaway should be, is that instead of, FD coming out with a rule change 5 months before your first event, they're giving you 24 to 36 months to plan for this, to budget for it, to modify or change chassis, whatever the hell you got to do. That is so awesome. Like being able to get multi-year stuff, that lets you start signing multi-year deals. That lets you start thinking like that long-term, not just like, I'm going to eat ramen tonight and burn 2 tires tomorrow kind of shit. Like this is much more professional, in my opinion. Some of the changes I agree with. Some of them I think are maybe going to need some tweaks. And I'll kind of go into one of those, like the transmission thing, right? For those that aren't aware, they are outlawing the sequential transmission, which is where you pull it back and forward, and it's 6 gears typically. And they are going for the traditional 4-speed H pattern. So it's still a dog box. It still can do clutchless shifting and still holds all the power. The difference is that now you only have 4 gears to choose from. And maybe someone wants to get fancy and get a 5-speed or even a 6-speed H pattern, but I doubt it. What I think they should do, and you can tell me what you think, is they're still allowing quick changes. So a quick change we're letting you adjust the gear ratios and stuff. What I think they should do is either allow a dog box and quick change, or a sequential with a single gear rear end, like a stock style pumpkin. That way the cost is more balanced. You get the benefit of the sequential without getting the double benefit of the quick change. And then it's about the same as on par. And it doesn't bone guys like Aaron Parker, for example, who's got a sequential in his very mild built for Pro 2 car, RX-7, which is a sick car. I think everyone would love to see an FD, but now he's not allowed to come. I don't know if he was going to, but he's probably mad about this change. So what do you think about that?
I mean, see, I think I would be way more upset if I was a driver.
Yeah.
But again, it's like I go back to like, dude, that's just how it, like, I'm just so used to seeing like that's just the way it goes. You know what I mean? Like they made this rule, it has to change. I think the age pairing is it definitely levels the playing field. I don't think there's that many skilled drivers in order to justify having sequentials. I'm sorry, that I just don't. Like,
no, that's fine. You shoot me straight.
I don't see that. I see way too many overbuilt cars and not enough people behind them that know what they're doing. And I think what they're trying to do is right now, it's a long game thing, what they're doing. In my opinion, I feel they're trying to make adjustments now, and you're not going to see the effect now, but later on you will see the effect. That's what I'm saying. I think if I was a driver and I was in a position like a couple of drivers where they already spent the money recently, and now they have to change everything, of course they're going to be upset. Now, it depends what type of driver that is. If it's a driver who has the money, he's like, whatever, dude. But if he's like most drivers and doesn't have that, he's like, yo, this fucking sucks. Do I feel for that person? Of course I feel for that person. But what are we going to do?
Yeah.
You can't, you know what I mean? Like, you have to think, you have to be creative, you know what I mean? Which kind of fits the drifter profile, because that's all we've ever done in drifting is try to figure it out. So congratulations, man. You get to say it one more time. Welcome to drifting. Here's a new obstacle. You got to figure it out. You know what I mean? And in 5 years, they may change the rule again. You know, like who knows? You know what I mean? It all depends how this is all going to turn out. You know, do I think it's easier for you to maybe stay with a chassis that already comes with a 6-cylinder instead of sticking an outrageously big car in an S chassis? Yeah. Do I want to see S chassis in Formula Drift? Hell yeah, I want to see S chassis in Formula Drift. It's a nostalgia thing for me. You know what I mean? But I don't know. I think it's going to come down to, depending what country you're in. Here in America, these are going to be the cars that are available. Currently, right now, the E46 or the 36s, and that's like the boom right now.
Right.
And the boom might be, I don't know, something else later on. It's an organic thing, and I think they're doing their best to try to see how this is going to turn out. I definitely do think that what you had was Pro 1 built cars that were just on 255s.
Yeah, 100% true.
With drivers that weren't pro, that unfortunately didn't have the skill set to pilot that vehicle.
Right.
And I don't know how many times we have to say this, like, you can't buy skill. You have to put in the time and practice. Jordan isn't Jordan because he just showed up and played. Like, the man put in work.
Right.
You know what I mean? Kobe put in work. Every athlete in the world put in work. You know what I mean? There's some pro drivers that don't put in that work. You know what I mean? But they should. You know what I mean? Like, this is your thing, right? Like, if you have the money, I don't know, maybe it's a financial thing, and that's where it starts to get into that gray area.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's the world that we live in, unfortunately, or fortunately for some people.
For sure. So, and there's no shame in stepping back either. I think that, needs to be said. There's no shame at all in taking your Pro 2 car and going and driving something else like clutch kickers, or just going back to fun with your friends or doing video projects, whatever. Like, you don't have to go and compete if you're all mad about it, or if it doesn't make sense financially. You don't need to feel like a loser that, can't run your drift car now. You just need to shift and kind of adapt.
No, there's cash events that are coming out. If that's your twist, then cool. Clutch kickers. I'm doing clutch kickers this year just because it's like the one place where you can go and take a swing at one of the big boys if you want to, and you don't have to deal with cut the middleman out.
For sure.
I've used the analogy Formula Drift is like the NBA, and like going to clutch kickers is like going to that street basketball game in the summer. You know what
Yeah,
I
yeah,
mean?
yeah. I like that.
It's
And
cool.
actually, I
You
can
know what I
definitely
mean?
vouch now. I was very skeptical, I'll be honest, of the
I
whole.
was too. We're all sitting there with our folds on, like, all right, let's see if this shit's gonna work out or not. You know what I
Right.
mean? It
Well, I
worked
was
out.
skeptical that my car could keep up with like a Pro 2 or Pro 1 car, a dog box car, a sticky tire car, because that's not my car. I mean, I know what my car is, and it's good at Pro-Am, and that's it, you know? um, so I did get to go drive on Drift Week 2. I got to drive against Ben Hobson's very, very fast 800 something wheel V8 S14 with sticky 255s. And yeah, he was a little faster than me, but I could absolutely, as long as my timing was down, and I was driving as hard as
Transitions.
possible, I could get him, you know. And
Yeah.
now that I've seen that in person, I'm like, all right, yeah, this isn't as bad as I thought. Like, this is
Are you
very,
gonna go this year?
I don't know yet.
Come on, just come
I,
out. I'll make a
I'm not gonna
video
say
where I
no.
trash talk, and then you can come out and
Yeah,
make it a thing.
yeah. I need to find someone who wants to like dual drive out there because I don't want to drag my shit out there by myself. I hate that.
I mean, I think there's a possibility that they're going to have. I don't know, I hope they're going to have garages where people can store things there. At least that's what I'm thinking of. You know what I mean? Or you can bring your car up and do the Gambler over at Englishtown.
Mm-hmm. I
And
do.
there's a place where you can leave your car there.
For
And
sure. I love Englishtown. E-Town is the bomb. I love that shit so much. And I haven't got to drive the FD track yet, but
it's cool.
Yeah, it looks cool too.
Yeah.
All right, so what about the link ECU rule? Let's talk about that one.
I think that's fine. I think that's cool. I don't know. I have a feeling that in New Zealand they did something like that. I don't know why. Maybe it's because I always see Link over there.
Mm-hmm.
But again, I referred right straight off to what I heard Kevin Well say. Who's the guy who's the head tech guy when it comes to all that and checking everything out, and the person behind all these rule changes, or the person that was explaining everything. It's a lot easier to pull data. It's a lot easier to do a lot of those things. They're just trying to keep it more unified, but in the spirit of trying to keep things fair. It's a lot easier for them to check a lot of things. Like, I understand, like, people like the freedom of how outlawed and how unrestricted it used to be, how lawless it was. And, we had those times, and I think they're just trying to do something where they can kind of have some sort of control, because, like, unfortunately, we live in a world where there is people that are going to cheat. And I think they're just trying to do whatever they can in an extended time frame to narrow that down a little bit, to make things a little bit fair.
Right.
And in a perfect world, everybody would just be straight up. But we don't live in a world like that. So they just want to make sure things are going to be in a way where nobody gets tempted, I think, and they can keep everything a little bit more unified. I'm sure there's marketing and stuff. This is a business.
Right.
So keep that in mind, that these dudes still need to make business transactions, make business deals, and in the spirit of trying to make things as fair as possible. At least that's what I hope is going on,
Yeah. And so my take on it, and a lot of people aren't really into all kinds of racing. They're just into drifting, so they don't know. Almost every form of racing has a spec ECU, and you're not even allowed to open that shit or even tune it in some racing. Like, it is spec. It's called Pro Spec. It's spec series in some ways, and the ECU is one of them. And that shit is totally normal in other forms of racing. Like, this is not that weird. It's cool. They're giving everyone a free one who signs up for the series. That's rad. And sure, it might, squash some partnerships that you might have with an existing ECU company, or, maybe you retail ECUs and now you can't use one in your own car. But that's another opportunity to pivot and say, on a street car, I use this ECU for this reason. On my pro car, I use this one because I have to. It's not because I want to. It's because I have to.
Yeah. And I know some people are like, well, I can't afford having two cars. I'm like, well, then professional drifting isn't really what you should even be looking at right now, dude. Like, you should buying or having a streetable or a street class car that's like a basic E36 or a 46 or 350Z to get your seat time. I mean, when you're looking at what you're doing professionally and drifting, like, it's a very small thing that you're picking up. It's a tool that you're investing in yourself to sharpen your skills a little bit. Yeah, it doesn't make 1,000,000 horsepower, but people really need to sit back and be like, where are you really putting your money? You know what I'm saying? And I think they're trying to guide people in such a way where it's like, all right, if I'm going to do this series, this is what I'm going to do. But like you said, you can pivot. You can do clutch kickers in a different car, or you can go to You can do grid life, which the exposure there is insane. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
It's
absolutely.
all about how you're going and what you're going to be doing. You know what I mean? Like, not to mention, like, there is people that don't even compete that are like, that do like the final bout style drifting,
Yep.
and they have really good partnerships. They're doing really well, and that is a completely different style of drifting entirely, and they're making it happen. You know what I
Absolutely.
mean? So it's all about how diverse you're going to be, or are you going to make that pivot and stuff like that. I think when it comes to the drifting thing and the professional drifting with the ECU, it's just, again, it's just something that got put into play. Like you said, so many other people have, so many other series have done it. I don't really see the issue there. Yeah,
For sure. All right, last rule we'll chat about, and then we'll call it a night, is the what was it? Oh, the steering wheel and pedal box. They're eliminating that soon. It's not even this year, but I see a bunch of people panicking about that. I see pros and cons on both ends. What's your take on that? What do you think?
I don't think it's going to happen.
Okay.
I don't think it's going to happen. They clearly say that they're thinking about it. They're in talks of doing it. They have been in talks about doing it before, but I don't think it's going to happen. If it does happen, I think it's going to be enforced in 2024. This is going off of what I just saw on their stream.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel well, the steering column and pedals, I think is definitely, I got them mixed up. I thought you were talking about the rad. The pedals and the steering column, I think the argument with that is, like, I was kind of like, why are they doing that? But then he made a really good point. He was like, well, look at how some people install their steering columns.
So bad. So bad.
So
that's what I was speculating too, is it's not so much that the parts are bad, it's that the operator error made them unsafe.
Yeah, and
they're just
as much as we want to think everybody knows how to build really good drift cars, like, unfortunately, I don't think everybody's fabrication skills are up to par.
Right.
And maybe that's their angle on it. You know what I mean? But again, like, I really forget how he worded it out, but the cost that you were going to spend, you could just put it somewhere else. You know what I mean? Again, for anybody that's involved in it right now, it kind of sucks.
Yeah.
But the next generation now knows ahead. He also said that there was going to be exceptions if your chassis was like an automatic or something, or if you had a special condition. So I don't think they're going to leave anybody high and dry. It's if you approach it in a professional manner,
yeah,
you kind of present everything. You say, look, this is what I'm working with. I doubt that they're gonna shaft some of these drivers. I feel like they're gonna be like, all right, cool. Like, I see what's going on here, and there's no other way for you to go about it. This is your option.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Exactly.
I think that's how they're going to approach it in a professional manner. And I can only assume that the drivers are going to be just as professional and say, look, this is what I'm dealing with. So
right. It'll be handled on a case-by-case basis. So, like, if you're super tall or super short, then you need a customized one for the ergonomics. That's important for safety. Okay. And then when you build it, they make sure you do it right. Obviously, that makes sense. And then for everyone else who doesn't need it, it's not something that they need to focus on spending money on, and they can focus on that elsewhere.
Yeah. I apologize. I thought you were talking about the moving the rad up to the front.
Yeah. No, I agree. The rad's not good. That's not going to change. They're not.
I don't think that's going to happen. I think I don't know. I don't think that's going to happen. And if it does, it's in 3 years from now. But
right.
I just don't think that's going to happen.
And so, on a personal level, I would love to see some more front mount rad cars, because that's what mine is. And I'm just like, the rear mount is not always the best. I've seen plenty of people do that and still have overheating issues. All kinds of things could go wrong, So, like, I just want to see more front mount.
Yeah, I think, and I want to see more front mount, just because, again, it's a simpler thing to go. Like, you show up, you essentially buy a Corvette,
right?
And you tweak a couple of things, you're pretty much ready to rock.
That's kind of where I think that's going to happen, is with a Corvette chassis, something that's damn near ready to rip. A couple of mods here and there, good driver.
I hate to say it too, because I know everybody's so tired of us talking about the Corvettes, but it's like, we're in America. I can kind of see it going that way. It just kind of makes sense. Like,
well, for me, it's like the C5 didn't really look that cool. The C6 was too expensive. The C7 is a transformer. But now that they're cheap enough, now it makes sense. You're like, holy shit, I can actually afford one. They're not 30 grand anymore, or they're not all automatic red convertibles owned by an 80-year-old, Like, yeah, now I can get one for a reasonable price.
And I'm sure there's a demographic that's really pissed off that we're doing this right now. And we're probably, I mean, I get it. Like, but we're hot rodding. We're taking American
Yep.
cars now, and we're doing all this cool shit to it, and I think it's a beautiful thing. I mean, I love the Japanese style. That's what I came up on. That's what I grew up on. But it is cool to see some of that other stuff too. And I have a Corvette now that I'm going to start putting into rotation with the drift school. And
I don't mean to offend you. I know you just got a C5. My bad.
oh no, I mean, I got it for such a deal. I mean, I want a C6, and but I have that, and I know it's going to give the thrill that we're seeking for, and that we can give to people. But I definitely think it's a good chassis. I definitely think it's something that a lot of people should maybe look into. That's just one example. You know what I mean? Like, again, he specifically said, and something he said was, there's a lot of chassis that already come with V8s properly suited for that application. They already have chassis that come with a 6-zone. They're a straight inline. So I'm not saying they're doing it on purpose to get rid of the 240s. That's what I originally thought. I think they're just putting this in efforts to try to guide people into maybe a more fundamentally sound way of going about doing things.
Oh yeah, I couldn't agree more. Well, that's awesome, man. You got anything else to add before we wrap it up?
Everybody should get on Field and Shredder's case and just make them come to Clutch Kickers.
Yeah, they should. Everyone here, if I could get every single person to send me $1, I would have enough to go run the entire series.
Do one Clutch Kickers and then come kick it at the Gambler.
Yeah.
And then, we'll find you another car or something. Like, dude, I'm sure you can find somebody that'll give you a Z or something. You can go shred over at the street legal event. And
hell yeah.
That's
what I want to do. I want to fly up there and just like drive someone else's, like do some hanging out, coaching, announcing, whatever. And just have a blast with you guys.
And definitely just come up to Club Loose and just jump in the ring with all those dudes and, and understand, all that tough love that it's just part. It's like a hazing period, you know what I mean?
Right.
And, once we know you can throw down, it's like, well, at least you can drive.
Yeah. That is a big part of, like, doesn't matter what you're wearing, what you're, how stupid you're talking. Once you can drive, you're like, all right, this guy's all right.
Yeah. The only thing I think we're gonna, dude, when you had that yellow car and you had the yeah, dude,
it was bad.
We're not even gonna say it, but oh man.
No, you know what's funny is I'm so glad that happened because I learned so much from that experience. Here's the thing that haunts me. It's been over 10 years. That was on my car for one event.
That's all it takes, bro.
One event. It was like maybe 40 pictures of it.
What were you thinking about? What made you say, yeah, I'm doing that?
So I really love the DTM cars over in Germany and in Europe that race with the big wide louvered fenders, the sick-looking Audis and Mercedes and BMWs. Like, that was what I was inspired by. I did a shitty-ass job of trying to replicate it. I fully admit it. Even me and, like, the body guy who helped me, we finished it, we, like, took a step back and we looked at it and we're just like, oof. It doesn't, and we, like, hold up the picture of the Audi and we're like, it's not the same. It's not the same.
Did he do one of those things where he was like, "Yeah, don't tell anybody I did it for
you"? Yeah, that's right. He's like, I don't want my name on this one. No, I was like, bro,
you didn't do that here.
I'm loading up for the event now. I can't change it in time, so like, we're just gonna send it. It was on the car for one event. It actually got crashed that event too, and
I didn't see it on pictures. I saw it on a video because it was in a parking lot event, right?
Yeah,
I think Nate Hamilton was there. Chelsea had his green E36 there in the video.
Yeah.
And then I see this thing come
Drifting Fun documentary.
That's what it was.
Yep. And so you know what's even better is in that documentary you can see it with shredder fenders, and then you can see it later with charge speed flares, like nice looking, same color and everything, but no one remembers that part.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to drifting. That is how it works here.
Exactly. That's right.
That's all I'm well, I mean, it's all past you now, and it's a fun thing to kind of to bring up every once in a while.
No, it's hilarious because, like I said, I learned a ton. I learned why style is important, why a good-looking car matters, even though it's drifting and it doesn't make any performance difference. I understand now, and that was a great learning experience to teach me that.
Big props to the younger generation, because I definitely started going into that race car type of look, and the younger generation rolled me back and was like, "Yo, Reese, like, don't do that, dude.
Yeah,
chill out. Don't do that."
Less
I was like,
more muscle.
They're like, "Don't do that, dude." And I was like, "All right, cool."
Yeah. Like, no, you're right. I was.
Let me sit my old ass down. My bad.
Right. Show me what's cool.
Yeah.
All right, man. Well, so great chatting with you. I hope to rub shoulders with you again this year. It's been
Absolutely.
fun.
We will see. If anything, we'll see. Are you going to Drift Week 3?
I plan to. I hope that everything works out. My car doesn't even run right now. I got to go work on it. But yeah, I do plan to go. There's like a 95% chance that I'm going to go to Drift Week 3.
I haven't talked to Aaron yet, so I'm hoping he sees this. But I
Yeah.
think we're working out a deal
Okay.
with one of my buddies with a BMW. There's a couple media things that are involved with it, so I think I'm going.
Nice.
But we didn't fill anything out yet. You know how it works. We're drifters.
Yeah,
You know, so we'll figure it out.
All the chips will fall into place a week before Drift Week 3.
Hopefully I'll see you at that one, and if not,
Cool.
I will see you at FD.
All right, sounds good, man.
All right, dude.
All right, and thanks everyone for tuning in. I'll see you guys on the next live.
See you later, man.
All right, bye.